Welcome to program number 5. It's a great topic, working past clients and centers of influence. You've already heard me mention it several times as we've come to this point in this program, and I want to spend time on it now because it is virtually what I believe the strongest building block to a long-term productive, profitable business. Now, I've mentioned several times already that there's been many criticisms of what I teach people to do. And one of the criticisms for many, many years about Mike Ferry was, he never teaches you to call on his past clients or centers of influence. But if you take back in 1975, the original actual little cassette program I produced, and if you ever got to see this, you'd laugh like I do, which is a picture of me on the back with the open collar and the gold chains and great big hair and all the rest, which was 1975. The first thing I talked about on that particular cassette program was the importance of building your center of influence. See, it's something I've talked about for the last 30 years, but because my name and the words cold calling seem to go together, that's what people think of. See, my belief is the only way to build a long-term, enormously productive, and very profitable business is to build a base of business with people that know who you are, understand what you do, respect that you can do it, and then work with you for long periods of time. If you look at the Mike Ferry organization today, the major portion of our client base today, and we have virtually 200,000 real estate clients throughout North America, are past clients and come from centers of influence. Large real estate brokers who refer their agents to us, past clients that come to our seminars time and time again. My goal with each one of you is to make you a client for life of my company, and to treat you in a way that you can sit back and say, this experience has been a great experience and one I want to continue for a long time. That's exactly what we're going to do with you and your past clients and with your centers of influence. So we want to start by talking about what I call the 10% rule. And the 10% rule revolves around the fact that you're going to have a list of names of people that either you've worked with in the past clients, new licensees, it doesn't apply obviously, and or centers of influence, which of course applies to all of us here. And the centers of influence are those people that we know through any one of a variety of places. Let's take some examples. Your center of influences: neighbors, friends, family, people on your Christmas card list, your personal phone directory, people you do business with on a regular basis, people that you've known through your children, through your schooling, through education, through your job, through your former jobs, through your spouse and their jobs, through social situations, maybe clubs and organizations belong to, from the Chamber of Commerce to a church group to a golf club. These are all people that you know and that know you, that many times you never relate to them in their profession as they don't relate to you in your profession, but you relate to each other because of the circumstances where you've met and maintained that friendship and that relationship. Well, you and I both know there may be any place from a minimum of 100 to several thousand people that you actually know, most of on a first name basis, that if they ever sat down and thought about it and you ever had the time to talk to them, would probably feel very comfortable referring business to you and helping you build your business, as I'm sure you would help them build theirs. So the center of influence business is critical, and that's why the 10% rule becomes a critical part of it. Here's the 10% rule. If you work with these people over a given period of time, and you work with them with a great sense of accomplishment and a sense of appreciation and a sense of service and a sense of value in what you talk to them about, 10% of that group on your list will give you business every year, either from themselves or people they know. So let's take, for example, you have 250 names on your center of influence list. My belief is if you do what we're going to talk about today in this program, over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, 10% of those people, or 25, will give you a transaction. You've heard me say, I believe that every person can add 25 transactions to their annual business. It can be done in most cases just working past clients and centers of influence effectively. So the first thing we have to do is we have to work on accumulating the list. So what do I want you to do? If you're an experienced veteran, take every transaction you've done since you started, and put their name, address, and phone number in some type of a file. We'll talk about the file itself a little bit later in this program. Then you take everybody that you know, okay? From the milkman to the postman to the person you buy your gas from the person, the dry cleaners, the manager of the local store that you buy your food at, okay? Everybody that you know. And everybody that you've met, and you put all those names together, and you accumulate the largest list you can possibly think of, knowing that you're going to keep adding to that list repetitively as your business continues and continues to grow. So the key to start is to build the list. Now, let me tell you, that is the hardest thing for most agents to do, to sit down with a pen and paper and start looking at who you're going to talk to. See, watch. I want you to go to your personal phone directory. I want you to go to your Christmas card list. I want you to think about your neighbors. Think about your friends, the people you met through your church groups, your golf club, your social. Think about those lists. Take the lists that you have available and start marking off the ones that you know reasonably well, that you have a relationship with, that you can talk to, communicate with. Good morning, Mary. Good morning, Bob. How you been? What's going on? How's the kids? How's the family? All those names together, okay? And I think in most cases, you should set a goal to have between 250 and 500 names in the next year to 18 months. That should be the minimum that you should have to make this work. Then think about, once you've started building it, then you think about the fact that you're going to get 10% of them to pay you a reasonably high return, which is a transaction to you, okay, in the course of a calendar year. We have a great agent down in Atlanta, Georgia, that we worked with for many, many years until she left the real estate business and started a new concern. And she had, at one point when I was coaching her, she had 860 names in her center of influence past client list. And of course, she worked the list very well. So I said to her one day, so how many transactions annually are you getting from that list? Well, guess what the answer was? 80 transactions, right at 10%. And I said, have you ever stopped to calculate how many people actually give you those 80 transactions? And she said, well, what's interesting, of the 800 names, there's about 200 that virtually give me 80 transactions every year. I said, well, how often do you talk to those 200? She goes, well, probably every month to 6 weeks I talk to all of them. And it results in 80 transactions a year. I went, wow. I said, well, here's a thought for you. What if you expanded those that you talk to that much from 80 to 100, from 100 to 120 over a given period of time? How big could your business become? She was doing 200 transactions a year at the time, of which 80, now think about that, 40% of the total business came from this list. Now, she was a great prospector, a great listing agent, great at lead follow-up, great at pre-qualifying. She was a great agent. When she took the test in our program number 2, believe me, she scored high every single time. But watch this. She still wasn't maximizing her return. See, I said to her one day, she could do 400 transactions a year instead of 200 if she just worked the list the way she could possibly work that list. So first thing we have to understand, it's the only way to build a long-term productive, profitable business. The 10% rule becomes the standing invitation to you to build the business and make it work in your favor. And then knowing that you have to work every day to expand it and to build it and make it grow. Now, I tell people all the time, if you have a list, if you've already put it together, okay, and you've already started the process, you'll want to take and look carefully at the names and divide them into 3 categories. Okay? Divide all the names into 3 categories. Category A are those people that will absolutely give you business on a regular basis if you ask. Okay? Category B is those that would give you business if you asked. Now, you already know which people you can talk to real estate about all the time. Now, here's what I don't understand. Why don't you talk to everybody about real estate all the time? The old joke I told for years was too many agents are what we call secret agents. They're going in disguise. Somebody says, what do you do? And they almost are embarrassed to tell people what they do. So you take a look at your list. Let's say you have 300 names on your list. And there's, say, 30 or 40 that would give you business all the time if you asked. So the question is, why don't you ask? And the answer is almost always the same, and I hear this all the time, and it's too bad, is I don't ask because I don't want to embarrass myself, and I don't want to embarrass them, and I don't want them to think that I'm begging for business, and I don't want them to think that I'm broke and that I need it. Wait a minute. Everybody we know, you and I, knows somebody that's going to buy or sell real estate. And they're always welcome to give that name to somebody in real estate if the person in real estate wants it and asks for it. So my belief is you have an obligation because of the great service you offer, you have to go through the process of saying to all the people you know, here's what I do, here's the service I offer, can I work with you and the people that you know? And you'd be shocked how many will say yes. So A, those that will give you business. B, those that would give you business if you asked. And then also on this list is category C, ones that you have on your list that you really don't like and probably don't like you, to which I always say get rid of them. Because let's say you have 200 names on your list and you go through and you call 10 or 12 every day and you're doing a good job of follow-up and you're doing your job right. And then you come across this name. Here's Billy Bob. And you go, oh, I hate that son of a gun. Gosh, I don't know why I have him on my list. Oh, darn it. And then you get yourself into a negative thought. And then you quit calling the next 5 or 10 because of the response of one. If you've got one on your list you don't like, watch, pick it out, rip it in half, throw it in the trash. Okay? So you got to really take a look at your list and see what you really have. What is on that list? What's available? What can you work with? What can you build and grow from? And what can you take from that list every year? I believe the 10% rule will work in your favor every time if you choose to use it. Now, I want you to think about how to make this thing work in your favor. The past clients and centers of influence will always give you exactly what you expect or ask for. So therefore, my belief is the first thing you do is you figure out how to treat these people with the highest level of respect, because they are business sources for you. And you always respect anybody who's a business source. So my thought is this: if I don't respect myself, I can't get them to respect me. The more I respect myself, the more they'll respect me. The more respect I give to them, the more respect I get back in return. So then you have to say to yourself, okay, how do I maximize my respect for these people and who they are and what they do? And how do I maximize my respect for myself? The answer: learn how to sell, learn how to give good service, learn how to provide great value, learn how to do your job at a level that nobody else they know can perform at. So, my belief is this: as my confidence goes up, as my belief in myself increases, and I talk to my centers of influence past client, I start to influence them in a way where they say, you know what? Dealing with Mike Ferry is really a smart decision. Therefore, I'm happily going to recommend him to a neighbor and or a friend, somebody else I know, because watching him work and watching the results he gets and watching the service he performs is so good that I know other people can take advantage of it. I will share this with you. I used to get referrals in real estate, and it was kind of funny because, as I was younger, I was told many times that I was a little bit too tough and a little bit too aggressive. And now that I'm in my 60s, of course, I'm real mellow, as you can tell by watching these particular tape programs, and I'm easygoing and all the rest. But I was very aggressive in my approach to selling real estate. I mean, if I got a lead, I went after that lead. If I got a referral, I went after that referral. I was unmerciful. Either they worked with me or I threw them in the trash can, and it was very quick and very efficient. And if they're going to work with me, they did it my way or else. So I was very aggressive. So it was not uncommon that I would get a phone call from a previous buyer or seller, and it would be like this: hi, this is Mike, can I help you? Hi, Mike, this is Mrs. Smith. Now, we have a friend who's thinking about selling. Now, we told him what you're like, but we told him you're the best guy to work with them. And I'd say, what do you mean you told him what I was like? Well, we told him what you were like. We just told him what you were like, but we knew you're the best guy for him. I'd say, thanks, I'd call the people. And they were all set up for me to deal with. See, if you don't think that you can do the job, don't call them. If you don't think that you're good enough to do the job, don't work to get that business. If you're not the kind of person that can follow up and do a great job and respect them and yourself, don't anticipate you'll get a lot of business from these people. The center of influence and past clients are the greatest gold mine for a real estate person in the history of real estate if you work it all the time.